Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Valgavoth, Terror Eater. It is a 9 mana 9/9 with flying and lifelink. It has a ward ability, so your opponents have to sacrifice 3 non-land permanents to target Valgavoth. And if a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valgavoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than pay its mana cost. This is basically a combination out of Ashiok and a Bolas the Citadel in your command zone, so we want to heavily abuse this ability in our deck. But first of all, Valgavoth costs 9 mana to cast, so we do what mono black can do really good, and that is accelerating in mana. So we play Scepter of Eternal Glory, a 4 mana artifact, which you can tap to add 1 mana of any color, and you can also add 3 mana of any one color, but you can only do that if you control 3 lands with the same name, which will be easy for us as we are playing a lot of basic swamps. So this is the cheap version of a Gilded Lotus for us. We play Extra Planar Lens, a 3 mana artifact with Imprint. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target land you control. Whenever a land with the same name as the exiled card is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. Of course we play Cryptghast, a 4 mana 2/2 with Extort, and whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add an additional black mana. We play Nyx Lotus, a 4 mana artifact which enters the battlefield tapped, and you can tap it and choose a color, add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. We play Throne of Eldraine, a 5 mana artifact, and as it enters the battlefield, choose a color. You can add 4 mana of the chosen color, spend this mana only to cast monocolored spells of that color, which won't be a problem in a monocolored deck. And you can pay 3 and tap the Throne of Eldraine to draw 2 cards, but you can only spend mana of the chosen color to activate this ability. And of course we play Cable Coffers, you can pay 2 generic and tap it to add 1 black mana for each swamp you control. Once we have brought out Valgavoth, we definitely need to protect it, which is why we play cards like Feign Death, a 1 mana instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. We play Im's Mischief, a 2 mana instant. Change the target of target spell with a single target. You lose life equal to that spell's mana value. Of course we want to equip it with Lightning Greaves, a 2 mana artifact. Equip creature as Haste and Shroud, and you can equip it for 0 mana. Undying Malice, a 1 mana instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Not dead after all, a 1 mana instant. Until end of turn, target creature you control gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, then create a Wicked Roll token attached to it. And one of the best protection spells in mono black is Chaos Ghost Form, a 1 mana enchantment aura. Enchant creature or planeswalker you control. When enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. Once Valgavoth is protected on the battlefield, we want to mill our opponents to get a lot of access to a lot of cards. So we play Mindcrank, a 2 mana artifact. Whenever an opponent loses life, that player mills that many cards. Altar of Dementia, a 2 mana artifact. Sacrifice a creature, target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. We play Mesmeric Orb, a 2 mana artifact. Whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. We play Altar of the Brood, a 1 mana artifact. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts a top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Another card that will fill up graveyards and also accelerate your game plan is Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree, a legendary artifact for 3 mana, and you can pay 2 mana and tap it, so target opponent mills 3 cards. You put a land card from their graveyard onto the battlefield tapped under your control, and it gains if this land would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. You can also pay 10 mana, tap it and sacrifice the Realmbreaker Invasion Tree to search a library for any number of Praetor cards, put them onto the battlefield and then shuffle. We also play a mono black wheel effect, Dark Deal, a 3 mana sorcery. Each player discards all the cards in his or her hand and draws that many cards -1. Due to the fact that the alternative casting cost from Valgavoth is by paying life, and we are also accelerating our game plan with a huge mana advantage, we need to stabilize our life totals. So we play cards like Exsanguinate, a 2 black and X sorcery. Each opponent loses X life and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Creeping Bloodsucker is a great early drop, a 2 mana 1/2, and at the beginning of your upkeep, Creeping Bloodsucker deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Dread Presence can do a lot for you, a 4 mana 3/3, and whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Either you draw a card and you lose 1 life, or it deals 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life. A great interaction spell is Consuming Corruption, a 2 mana instant. It deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker and you gain X life, where X is the number of swamps you control. For even more card advantage and life total stabilization, we play Twilight Prophet, a 4 mana 2/4 with flying and ascent, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that card's mana value. Due to the fact that we have a really high devotion count, we also play Grey Merchant of Asphodel, a 5 mana 2/4, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. You want to win more? You get it. Brainstealer Dragon, a 7 mana 6/6 with flying, and at the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of each opponent's library. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and if you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. And now the relevant thing and the great synergy part with Valgavoth. Whenever a non-land permanent an opponent owns enters the battlefield under your control, they lose life equal to its mana value. Additionally, we play Staff of Eden, Vault's Key, a 6 mana legendary artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, put target legendary permanent card not named Staff of Eden, Vault's Key from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and you can tap it to draw a card for each permanent you control but don't own. And talking a little bit more about life total stabilization and a great combo with Brainstealer Dragon is Exquisite Blood, a 5 mana enchantment. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. And another card that will constantly help you to keep casting spells of your opponents with Valgavoth is Ashiok, Wicked Manipulator, a 5 mana legendary planeswalker with 5 starting loyalty. And if you would pay life while your library has at least that many cards in it, exile that many cards from the top of your library instead. If it happens that you have Ashiok, Brainstealer Dragon and Valgavoth on the battlefield, you can keep casting your opponent's spells and hitting them with damage from Brainstealer Dragon to probably win the game in this turn. He also has a plus ability, look at the top 2 cards of your library, exile one of them and put the other one into your hand, which is constant card advantage. His -2 ability is create 2 1/1 Black Nightmare creature tokens with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if a card was put into exile this turn, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. He also has a very powerful ultimate ability, -7, target player exiles the top X cards of their library, where X is the total mana value of cards you own in exile. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Valgavoth, Terror Eater. Let me know down in the comments below which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next, and then I would say, see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.